Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, this injustice, the stealing of RDAs from cities and counties, took away local government's last incentive to eliminate blight, to bring business and commerce to our cities. It was probably one of the most devastating hits that our cities and counties had to endure. And I made a commitment when I ran for this office that I was going to protect local government from the impacts of the state government with unfunded mandates and unfair policies. Unfortunately, SB 107 had great intentions, but it's been a very contentious road from the very beginning. And while there's some very good points in it, such as the 4 struggling cities in Riverside County that inappropriately had their VLF stolen from them, the most egregious was the city of Jurupa Valley, who had the money stolen from them just prior to them incorporating on July the 4th, leaving them strapped, leaving the county of Riverside on the hook for helping them provide for basic public safety, Eastvale, Wildomar, Menifee. It's creating winners and losers. It's, I think, very unfortunate that we're getting this at 9:34 on the last day of session with very little time for cities and counties to read all the fine print, all the details. I think this is, frankly, government at its worst. You would think that you would have the endorsement of the California League of Cities, that you would have the endorsement of the California Association of Counties if this was such a good bill that was equitable to all cities and all counties that have taken the hit. But unfortunately, the cities are the ones that are taking the biggest hits, and this bill is creating many winners and many losers. I appreciate that the speaker on this bill was talking about the $5 million according to the California League of Cities. It says for all loan agreements cumulatively. I think the great senator from San Francisco has made it very clear. I just want to make sure in the record it's $5 million per loan. I think that will please the cities. The transfers of real property, city transfers of real property to CRAs for the use of by CRAs, and CRA is required to pay city for real property interest. It's unclear how widely applicable this provision is. City attorneys reviewing this bill this morning identified Santa Monica, Daly City, and Hayward as potentially benefiting. The bill requires that there was a transfer of an interest in real property to the redevelopment agency. This type of loan does not include agreements between a city and its RDA in which the interest in real property remained with the city. Cash. This is the Department of Finance's original proposal in AB 113. While cash loans will supposedly be recognized, the interpretation of required payment schedule on page 80, line 3 by the Department of Finance will make the difference in whether such loans are recognized or must be further litigated. I thought the purpose of this bill was to stop the litigation. The Department of Finance will have the opportunity to interpret the phrase repayment schedule. Loans of cash do not include repayment schedule, as the phrase is ultimately interpreted by the Department of Finance will not qualify for repayment. The interest on these loans recalculated from the original at 3% simple interest. This interest rate would be less than what these local agencies could otherwise recover based on existing law and the Glendale decision. And what's really unfortunate is we're stacking the deck against these cities to utilize their funds for legal costs. The Department of Finance is exempted from the Administrative Procedures Act, but these local agencies are restricted to the administrative cost allowance as the sole funding force for their legal costs unless they take money from their general fund, which they will only be able to recoup if they're successful. So to summarize, I have 5 cities that are big losers in the approximately 12, 13 cities that I represent. The county, of course, of Riverside is on the hook for $24 million if this does not pass, or if my colleague from Riverside's bill gets signed into law, but unfortunately it's suffered vetoes in the past. So there's a poison pill in here for probably every one of us. I just wish that there could have been some conference between the League of Cities, CSAC, the governor's office, the Senate, the Assembly, and reach an appropriate compromise. It's unfortunate that we're all part of the state of California, and it's almost like it's a war between the state of California and the cities and some counties. We should be working together to try to ease these horrific financial setbacks that have been endured by cities that have now had to cut back on their public safety expenditure. They have not been able to provide low to moderate income housing, which is a very important aspect of redevelopment, something that's very important to all of us here. It's basically stripped us of those types of funds, and I think that's very unfortunate. I was a strong proponent of RDA. I saw it work in the city of Temecula, where I started my political endeavors in 1992 when we had an old town, Temecula, founded in the 1800s, where the train and Butterfield stage used to end, and it was dilapidated. And so we did what was called the Old Town Specific Plan. And properties that you could buy for $5 a foot, $3 a foot back then, today are selling for much, much more. The state made the investment by allowing us to use the increment, and today the state is the beneficiary because the property taxes that are generated there are significant. I think it was very short-sighted to end redevelopment, but it is what it is. I can't stand up today and support this bill because it creates winners and losers, and I have to support my 5 cities that are being harmed by this bill. I regretfully will not support it and urge a no vote on SB 107.